Hi, I'm Mia. My birthday was in a few days, so my friend Candy decided to throw a cool party. But I refused because I couldn't stand parties.
Mia, come on. You're always at home. You need to get out more.
And Candy was right about one thing. I loved staying in, so she wasn't able to convince me. The next day, I was walking down the street when I suddenly saw a poster of a missing girl on a pole. When I took a closer look, I realized it was a photo of me. I froze and I stared at it for a few seconds. Impossible. What kind of joke was this? I tore down the poster, put it in my purse, and I went home. I kept thinking about it though. The girl in the photo and I were like 2 drops of water. Eventually, I came to one conclusion. I had a twin sister. Yeah, it seemed impossible, but you know, my whole life I had a feeling that I had a soulmate out there somewhere. At home, I immediately bombarded my parents with questions. I showed them the poster and I demanded an explanation. Tell me the truth. Am I adopted? My parents looked very surprised. They looked at each other and then tried to convince me that I was wrong. But I knew my mom and dad really well. They were totally hiding something. I spent the evening trying to get to the bottom of it. And in the end, we had a fight. Mia, your imagination is going wild. Stop talking nonsense and go study. Of course, my mind was way too preoccupied to study. In my room, I started pacing and trying to figure out what was happening. My parents had looked so suspicious. Most likely, my sister and I had been separated during childhood, and we'd ended up in different families somehow. Now, our parents were hiding the truth from us. I couldn't just leave it like that though, so I decided I would find out everything for myself. I took the poster out of my purse and I called the number on it. A woman answered the phone. She said that the photo on the poster was of their missing daughter, who had gone to a club and hadn't come back. I'm sorry to ask, but was your daughter adopted? The woman went silent. I was already beginning to think I wouldn't get any answers. But then, the woman confessed. My husband and I adopted her almost 16 years ago when she was very young. I thanked her for telling me that and hung up. My heart was pounding like crazy. Was I right? Just imagine, I actually had a sister. The next morning, I got up early and I decided to find her. At school, I immediately told Candy everything, and I asked her to help me. There was only one normal club for young people in our city. That was probably where my sister had been just before she went missing. Candy and I barely sat through our classes before going to the club. There were almost no visitors there during the day, just a bartender who was lazily wiping glasses behind the counter. We came up to him, and I asked him if he'd recently seen a girl who looked a lot like me. No, haven't seen anyone like you. Lowering his gaze, the bartender went back to wiping the glasses. Was it just me, or was he acting really suspicious? Candy and I hung around the club for a while before leaving. And that's when it dawned on me. Of course, my sister had been kidnapped. The criminals who had done it were probably already demanding ransom. I decided I would go to the police, but Candy didn't like my idea and tried to stop me. Seriously, the police? I don't think it's a good idea. We don't know anything for sure yet. But I didn't listen to her, and we went to the nearest station. There, I talked to a cop. He looked through their database and said that no one had filed a missing girls report recently. Huh? How was that possible? Had the sister's parents put up posters around the city but not thought of contacting the police? It was all really strange. After leaving the station, Candy and I sat down on a bench. She was saying something, but I wasn't listening to her. What if the woman I'd spoken to on the phone was hiding something? Maybe my sister's foster parents were treating her badly and were actually really cruel. What if they had taken her somewhere in the woods and just left her there? And then they put up the posters so no one would suspect them. I had to do something at once. So I turned to one of my friends for help. Philip was an awesome hacker and a computer guru. I gave him the woman's number and I asked him to find her address. He sent it to me the very next day and, of course, I decided to go there right after school. By the way, it was my birthday, but I'd completely forgotten about that. No one congratulated me, not even Candy. Before, I would have felt pretty hurt, but now I had more important things to worry about. I was afraid to go alone, so I dragged my friend with me again. We went to the address Philip had sent me and found an ordinary house. There were no lights on that we could see, and when we rang the doorbell, no one opened the door. It looked like there was no one in the house, but my intuition told me that wasn't the case. Something bad had happened to my sister, and I had to help her. I really wanted to find her, so I wasn't about to back down. We need to break into the house. Candy looked at me like I was insane.
Are you nuts? In case you've forgotten, that's illegal.
Do you think I care about laws right now? Candy, come on! We're talking about my sister. If you were me, wouldn't you want to find her? My words seemed to move Candy, and she agreed to come with me with a sigh. We went around the house and found an ajar window. I reached in, felt around for the handle, and opened the window. I was afraid the alarm would go off, but everything went fine. It was very dark inside. We crept along a narrow corridor. Every time a floorboard creaked under my feet, I was afraid we were about to get caught. We were able to sneak into the living room. I froze, listening, when someone suddenly turned on the lights. It hurt my eyes and I squeezed them shut for just a moment. When I opened them again, I realized that the living room was full of people. All of my friends and classmates were there. They shouted, "Surprise! Happy birthday, Mia!" I was stunned. I kept standing in the doorway and looking at them in shock. What was going on? Then Candy hugged me, congratulated me on my birthday, and told me the truth about everything with a smile on her face.
It was all my idea. You wouldn't let me throw a party for you, and I couldn't think of a way to make you leave the house. That's why I suggested we arrange all of this and throw a party in your honor. We printed out your own photo on the poster, and my aunt was the one who spoke to you over the phone. By the way, this is her house. She let us throw a party here.
I was shocked. So the whole thing with my twin sister had been a prank? I didn't really have a twin sister? Everyone had tried so hard to prepare the surprise for me. So I forced a smile and I thanked them. Candy immediately turned on loud music and the fun began. More precisely, everyone else started to have fun, except for me. Instead of rejoicing, I wanted to cry. I had really believed I had a sister, that I was about to find my soulmate. What a bummer. I could hardly wait for the party to end and finally go home. I spent the weekend in my room. I felt terribly hurt and upset. I was also a little mad at Candy. I would have preferred not to celebrate at all. As soon as I thought about Candy, she called me. I didn't really want to talk to her, but I answered anyway.
Mia, listen. My aunt just got a call from a girl asking about the poster. She said that the girl in the photo looked just like her.
I had only been a little bit upset with Candy before, but at this moment, she made me furious. Are you kidding me? This isn't funny anymore. I'm sick of your dumb jokes. Stop pranking me. I hung up, irritated. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about what Candy said all night. Of course, I didn't believe her, but to be honest, deep down, I still had my doubts. What if she hadn't been lying? The next day, I couldn't help myself, and I decided to make sure. I went to the house where the party had taken place. Candy's aunt was there, and I asked her to tell me the truth. Yes, some girl did call me. She was very surprised after seeing your photo on the poster. You look very similar, apparently. Maybe I was being pranked again? But on the other hand, what if it was all true? So I asked for the girl's number. But then it turned out that Candy's aunt had accidentally dropped her phone into water, so it was being repaired. I came back home feeling pensive, and I couldn't decide whether to believe it all or not. As soon as I opened the front door, my worried parents rushed to me. They looked guilty and scared at the same time. Sit down. We need to talk to you. Their behavior was making me mad anxious. They were acting so suspicious. I sat down on the sofa, and my parents sat down next to me. Mom was biting her lip worriedly, and Dad was frowning. They seemed so out of sorts. I just wanted them to hurry up. Well, we're sorry, but we've been lying to you. You asked us a question recently, and what we told you wasn't the truth. You are adopted. We took you in when you were very young, and your twin sister stayed in the orphanage. I was so shocked, I didn't even know what to say. I didn't even know whether to be happy or angry at my parents for hiding the truth from me. We decided to tell you the truth now because your sister came here an hour ago. She left you this note. Mom handed me a folded piece of paper. I took it with shaking hands. The note said that my sister would be waiting for me at a cafe at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. She had even written her name on the bottom. Agatha. I clutched the note to my chest. Agatha! So that was her name. I'd been right all along. I did have a sister. I looked at my watch and my heart sank. It was already 2:45. I ran from the house. I knew I wouldn't make it on foot, so My only chance was to catch a taxi. I was terribly nervous while I was sitting in the car. Please, let me make it. The taxi suddenly slowed down and then stopped altogether. There was a huge traffic jam ahead of us, and I realized we wouldn't be moving for a long time. I paid the taxi driver, got out of the car, and ran. I looked at the time on my phone, and my heel suddenly got caught in the sewer grate. This was just what I needed. I tried to free my leg, but nothing was working. I felt so helpless I wanted to burst into tears. But I had no time for hysterics. I got a grip, pulled my heel free, and kept running. My gym teacher would have been so surprised to see me. I had never run this fast before in any of my classes. When I jerked open the door to the cafe and ran inside, both the visitors and the staff turned to look at me. But I didn't care what other people thought. Moving through the room, I looked for familiar faces at the tables. But Agatha was nowhere to be seen. It was the end. I was late and I'd missed my only chance to meet my sister. I felt so awful. I just sat down at a table and finally burst into tears. But all of a sudden, I heard Candy's voice nearby. Mia? Is that you? I wiped away my tears and I looked at her. Candy seemed really surprised. I came here for coffee, but a few minutes ago I saw a girl who looked just like you. Can you believe it? I even talked to her. She was waiting for you, but you never showed up, so she left. I immediately imagined Agatha sitting in the cafe, hoping to meet me. But then, I hadn't come, so she must have felt so hurt. It seems like Mia doesn't want to meet me. What I imagined seemed so real, I started crying again. Why? Why had I been so late? I was such a loser. Candy tried to calm me down, but I didn't want to talk to anyone. Agatha and I were probably just never meant to meet. So be it. I came back home very upset, slipped past my parents, and locked myself in my room. I felt really depressed. I didn't want anything. And for the next few days, I didn't even go to school. My parents, thankfully, understood how I felt and didn't push me. They were also feeling really guilty and were just trying their best to not upset me. I was lying on my bed staring at my ceiling when Candy's aunt suddenly called me. She asked me when was the last time I'd seen Candy. It turned out that my friend had gone missing. She's been so busy looking for someone lately, and last night she didn't come home. I'm very worried. I jumped out of bed. The news of my friend's disappearance had shocked me enough that I could ignore my depression. Where had she gone? Disappearing with no warning was not like her at all. Terrified, I went to her aunt. I had to find out what had happened. When I got there, it was already dark. The lights in the house were out, and I had a strong feeling of deja vu. However, this time the door wasn't locked, so I easily got inside. I walked down the familiar corridor, stepped into the living room, and then someone suddenly turned the lights back on. The person I saw in front of me was Candy. She was standing right in front of me, and all my friends were there too. What were they doing? It's not my birthday anymore.
You know, I've been looking really hard for someone lately, and I just happened to have finally found her.
I didn't understand what was going on. So I was about to tell everyone exactly how mad I was that they were pranking me again, but then something incredible happened. A girl that looked just like me suddenly peeked out from behind Candy. It was Agatha. We looked at each other in silence for a long few moments, and then we burst into tears and hugged each other. My friends started to loudly applaud us. It was probably the happiest moment of my life. The party in honor of the reunion of the two sisters was a great success. We danced and had fun until the morning. Agatha and I had so much to discuss, and I was incredibly grateful to Candy for finding her. Now, my sister and I see each other every day. We still live in our foster homes, but we decided that from that moment on, we would be staying together, always. And even though we hadn't seen each other since we were kids, I feel like I've known her my whole life. Agatha's like my reflection, my soulmate. Nothing in the world could ever destroy the bond between us. Do you have a person that you can call your soulmate? Tell us in the comments down below.